Welcome to Girl Up UAE's first podcast episode. We, as an organization, aim to raise awareness on women's issues and highlight their successes over the years. I'm Anya, and
I'm Sarah.
I'm Sivangi, and today we're going to be focusing on the lack of women in politics.
It's unfortunate to know that women comprise only 25% of all parliaments across the world, keeping in mind that they make up over half the world population.
So when you consider all of this together, why is it that, why is it important to have women in politics? We can always say whenever women are included in politics, there's always an improved decision making. For instance, in Norway, once we had the input of women, there was better health, childcare programs that were started. And in India, we had multiple water drinking programs as well. So, all of this, it really helps the world go forward in a better way.
plus considering the fact that Sarah did say that women do make up half the global population, and women in politics can help the country or whatsoever the place establish laws that help eliminate or minimize women's issues such as domestic violence, for example, and other instances that women face, as having a male predominant political party or political positions can ignore certain issues that women face and turn a blind eye to them or blind side to them. And so having women on board can help highlight these issues and properly tackle them due to first-hand experiences or fully understanding the issue itself.
And having women in politics will also reduce the overall dissatisfaction with the government in the world, because when you have equal representation of of all genders in the parliament, you'll have equal happiness as well on the civil level.
Yeah, and over time, there are a lot of influences from liberal feminism. So liberal feminism essentially is helping women gain more rights in the workforce and in careers, etc., with the help of the law. So if there are more women in politics, this can be due to advancements of liberal feminism, as we are aware that right now, the world is more forward than it was a few years back. And although, yes, there are a few women in politics currently, it is not equal or even close to being equal. So empowering women and doing so can help them raise their voice and amplify it in political positions.
Yeah, I completely agree. So why do you guys think that there aren't more women in politics? Why is the number so small? According to the statistic that Sarah said, it's only 25%.
I think essentially there are many stigmas surrounding women in politics, and that's why a lot of women don't take part in such a career path or such leadership positions. So there are many stigmas, as we can tell. So one of them being that there's emotional aspect to women, or women are seen as very emotional rather than logical, which is pretty ironic, as majority of the wars that have been taken place are for lack of logical reasonings in some scenarios, and they have been caused by men or have been decided upon by men.
Yeah.
So that's why I feel that it's very silly that women are only seen as emotional, because yes, there are certain biological factors that may make them emotional, but it is overly exaggerated in such a social setting.
And I don't think we let it affect our decision making or anything that's professional, obviously.
Yeah, and even if that was true, I'm pretty sure it would be refreshing to have a fresh take on politics instead of your typical male view.
Of course. I think another reason that we haven't touched upon yet is that women are often perceived as caregivers, and that we're only supposed to stay at home, take care of the children, and that should be our first priority. While I guess that should be one, but we also have a life of our own, of course. And who says that we can't balance them both? If
exactly, you don't have to pick. You can balance both, exactly, yeah. And sometimes we are from a young age told that when we pick a career, we have to make sure to keep in mind that after we're older, we'll have to have children, we'll have to take care of them, which is why you shouldn't choose a career that isn't too attention demanding, right? Which is very, very odd. We should stop teaching our children this.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think that there's a certain sociological term, it's known as dual burden. So women face this where they have to balance their work life and take priority over their family life as well. And currently, there aren't these certain expectations placed on men to be the caregiver, to be viewed as having an emotional connect with their children all the time. Like, yes, there are instances, and yes, the world is moving more forward towards fathers being more involved in their child's life. But right now, essentially, the expectations are on women to take care of their children, take care of their family, and also have a job of their own. I think this is particularly why, or it could be a reason why that there are lack of women in politics, because obviously it's really difficult to manage both, and it's just additional burden for women.
And in the current economic state of the world, it's really impossible, it's almost impossible to survive on just one income. We need both partners working to keep the family sustained. So the double standards just don't work out. And like, if you really think about it, if you think of a working mother, a lot of people see a working mother as a mother who is absent, not fully present in the child's life. But a working father is seen as someone who is involved in the child's life, something normal, completely okay.
But I do feel like nowadays that view is changing more often. Like I personally don't hear that, but like I don't know about everyone else. Maybe it's just me, but yeah, I would say that it's, progressing. We're progressing.
Right, and as well as like stigma aside, the way women are dressed as well has a huge role to play within their political positions, because essentially there's a lot of harassment cases, etc., on women, and a woman is taken less seriously if she's dressed in a way that may be seen as disrespectful, whereas these expectations aren't really placed on men, which I truly believe are very contradictory, and they are double standards essentially. So that's another factor, that even if women, yes, they are in politics, they have to get all dressed up, they have to put their makeup on, they have to wear heels, they have to come in a certain way, and that is appropriate.
It's
You
like
know,
they're
and if
waiting
a
for
woman,
people. It's like they're waiting for people.
right,
They're like ready for them to just pick them apart, and like they have to be ready
yeah,
to like defend themselves in all those like instances.
right. And although yes, that's really powerful, but essentially like women do have to put on makeup, they have to look a certain way, whereas for men, obviously you have to get out of the shower, put on your suit, look all professional with your briefcase, but obviously they don't have to spend like plenty amount of time like looking presentable just to be taken seriously, and I think that's also an issue. Plus there's also a lot of harassment, like verbal harassment as well, and slurs that are said against women, because there was a certain situation with AOC as well, where she was called harmful names, and it was obviously she handled it really well, and I truly believe that that should not be a situation that women should be put through just because they're in political positions. And yeah, so
And on another reason, another contributing factor would be the gender data gap, because we have very little data regarding why women don't participate. And maybe if we knew what holds them back, we could try to eliminate these problems and set a level playing field. Because before equality, we have to concentrate on trying getting equity. That should be our first and foremost priority.
yeah, and I think this has a lot to do with the base of education that women have and the way they're socialized, because a lot of women are socialized into a nurturing role or a nurturing job per se, and men are just socialized into a work-oriented lifestyle. And I think this can be particularly problematic, as this discourages women from taking up higher leadership positions, especially in political situations. So there's also an instance where this feminist sociologist, she raised her children equally without any gender bias, etc. So it was a very gender neutral form of parenting. But she also found that once she sent her kids to school, they essentially learned gender-based behavior, and women or girls were seen as more nurturing, more emotional, and guys were seen as more aggressive per se, and more obviously in the stereotypical way that men are seen. And I think this has a lot of impact on women as well, as from a very young age, if they're socialized into such gender specific behavior, it can affect their life later on as well. Moreover, even in the media, like there's a very famous movie, Illegally Blonde, with Reese Witherspoon. Yeah, it was a very iconic movie per se, but the woman is portrayed in a very stereotypical way, as she is seen as a dumb blonde in certain situations, and her focus on fashion and women related like associations and personalities have helped her in the workplace. And yes, that's great, but overall not every woman is like that, and she can be equally capable of thinking logically. However, there are like proper representations within that movie as well, like setbacks from men in the workplace and how to overcome them, as well as how women are equally capable of achieving such positions despite taking their interests in other things such as fashion or other like
Other ways of
stereotypically associated.
self-expression.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
I really loved that movie. I watched, there's like part 2 and 3. Yeah, I watched all of them together.
I don't think
And
I've
then, okay, coming back to the MENA region, I think the MENA region is known to be a little more backward in this regard. 60% of women in the MENA region hold back from participating in politics because of fear of violence. And this really should be addressed and should be changed.
Yeah, because of like how low the representation is in the MENA region, like a lot of women that reside there or from there do face a lot of disadvantages, as in there's unequal legal rights. Like women in the MENA region don't really have the same legal rights as men. They can't do a lot of stuff. There's also very small scope of getting any protection if they are suffering from domestic abuse. And there's a huge constraint on how they can participate in economic activities or get any economic opportunities. And even if they do like step forward to take in there, they're always faced with like a lot of backlash, and they face like I think twice the amount of unemployment than men do. So like, you know,
And when a man chooses to go forward, go into a role of politics, there isn't a lot resting on him. He either fails or he succeeds. But when a woman goes forward, there's a lot riding on it. If she fails, she's going to have to face all the backlash from her family, and they'll probably be telling her, oh, you never should have gone in the first place. You should have concentrated on your family and whatnot. So that everything is resting on the shoulders just makes everything so much worse.
Yeah, I agree. I think family support as well for women in politics is a huge thing, because essentially if you want to reach that position, like as a woman, you should have a form of support, like the same support system a man has, because stereotypically the socially satisfied jobs include like being a lawyer, being a doctor, all these high status jobs. And now that we're moving forward ahead with time, people should give women these equal opportunities. And yes, right now there is an encouragement on women to take up such positions, like be a doctor, be a lawyer, whatsoever. But essentially, there are certain rural areas within the world, sometimes within the Middle East as well, where this form of thinking isn't there, where they encourage their daughters to go ahead, take up these high position roles, and that's why there should be more focus and more empowerment from the families itself, because that is the basic form of support that a person may have.
Yeah, that's very true. Like if you don't have any support from your family, like those that you trust the most and you like surrounded with, then you're essentially like not lost, but like there's no backbone, there's no support. So yeah.
Right.
So when we look at the MENA region, I think 12 MENA countries are like there are 12 MENA countries in the 25 worst supporting like performing countries.
Survey on participation of women in politics, yeah.
Yeah,
And
but
12 of 25 is almost 50%. So MENA region is definitely there's a lot of room for improvement.
But I think UAE perseveres to that stereotype, and we have a lot of women in power, right?
Yes, UAE is definitely at the forefront trying to break the stereotype against the Middle East. And I think it's doing really great in that regard.
Right.
Okay, so I have like a few women that I would like to name. One of them is Sara Al Amiri. She's the Minister of Advanced Sciences. and she was at the forefront of the Mars mission from the UAE, and she was the first Emirati to speak at an international TED event in 2017, which I think is a very big accomplishment. And another one is Reem Al Hashimi, who was a Harvard graduate. So, yeah. And she was one of the people that got UAE the winning vote for the Expo 2020. And she was the Director General for Expo. And she's also the UAE Minister of State and International Cooperation. So, yeah.
Damn, I didn't know that. That's actually so cool.
It is. There are a lot of very powerful women in the UAE.
And there's also the Minister of State for Public Education, Jamila Salim Al Moheri. There's the Minister of Culture and Youth, Noura Al Kabi, which is like a really, really important position. It isn't just a, just for the sake of it. These are like really important positions. 9 out of 33 minister titles in the UAE cabinet are held by women, which is around 30%. I think that's an amazing number. Also, the youngest government minister in the whole world is a minister of UAE. She is the Minister of State for Youth, Shama Al Mazrui. I think she was 22 when she was made the minister. It's commendable, really.
It really is. So
considering the above, these advancements of women in politics has seen like foreseeable improvements and should continue to improve within other countries as well. And we as Girl Up UAE, as an organization, we aim to amplify the voices of women and help them be inspired to take up such positions. So we hope that you learned something or feel empowered by listening to our first podcast episode today. And that's all for today. So thanks for tuning in. And make sure to check out all our socials of Girl Up UAE. This is Girl Up UAE.
Girl Up UAE
signing out.